to be honest with you, that's who we are. At one point, I was ranked the 100th at the last Power 5 coach in the country and the worst in the SEC. Now, I may be that, but I have a chip on my shoulder that I'm not.
Welcome to Fringe Element here on the 440 Sports Network. My name is Braden Gall, and you can follow me on Twitter at Braden Gall.
Mine's Erin Dugan. You can follow me on Twitter at the Erin Dugan or Instagram Erin_Dugan.
Rate, review, subscribe on the YouTube page. Erin, and what is Sean's nickname? P. Diddy. What's his name?
Young Sean P. Diddy Combs.
Young Sean P. Diddy Combs Dugan does great work to put this show up so you guys can consume it visually with your eyeballs. Make sure you go to the YouTube page and check it out. Erin, it's blowing up, man. A lot of people are talking about it. Just saying. Tons
of people. I'm just going to start pointing to like random parts of the screen so that my brother has to drop buttons in. I'm like, here, you can subscribe. Here. He's going to be like, really? We're just waving our hands.
That reminds me of that guy on the commercial on the side of the road. He's like, this is going to get tens and tens of likes.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, it's so good. It's the mayhem guy. No free shouts. Welcome to the show, guys. Already in progress. Our special guest today on the show, the crowning achievement of Erin Dugan's life.
Blessed.
The Arkansas head football coach, Sam Pittman. On the show today. We had about 15 minutes with him.
He's
really
perfect.
Really great insight into sort of like how he runs a program. You know, what like I love the communication and the strategy and the human transparency. And you asked him about that. And so really great conversation. You Arkansas fans are going to want to hear it. So make sure you tune in for that. Of course, we've got a really long conversation about divisions. And in fact, Sam Pittman, actually, we asked him about what he thinks about divisions. So Sam Pittman had an opinion about that. But we're going to give you what we think should happen. I have very good information from the SEC as to why they are going to do away with divisions. I'm not reporting that. I'm just telling you why I think why they're in favor of it. I'll explain, and why I'm in favor of it. We'll explain as well. And we'll get to Nick Saban, I think, being a little bit tone deaf in his commentary on the Feinbaum show earlier this week. However, Erin, before we do any of that, the Fringe Element Podcast is brought to you by
Jasper's, the place you can go and have the best day of your life. And I just had the best day of my life.
Are you going to celebrate later at Jasper's, you think?
I think I'm going to have to. I wish he was here.
How early could you start drinking on a day that you interview Sam Pittman?
Listen, I work every single day, so I can start drinking whenever I want to on whatever day I want to. And I don't feel bad.
Get those dopamine hits ready, baby, because Sam Pittman's coming up later on in the program.
He's the best.
Look, Erin, first of all, you look spectacular all the time. But you look a little extra fancy today. You got the hair, done, and the everything's fancy. You know, Sam Pittman brings out the best in everybody.
I'm one on, one off with us each week. I'd say I go like sporty athleisure, baseball hat, or like hair down. But I definitely got to go. Yeah, I got to make it right on Sam Pittman interview day. Yeah.
Sam Pittman Day. Happy Sam Pittman Day, everybody. All right, so let's 16th. Get quick. Go to Jasper's, by the way, free 17th. Parking. Great place to eat if you're in Nashville. Also, check out all the other great restaurants from Four Top Hospitality. They have 13 locations across the Southeast in Memphis, Jackson, Huntsville. Great restaurants.
Char, Amerigo's.
Go on.
Etch Char, Amerigo's, etc.
Jasper's, etc. Saltine. Lots of great restaurants across the Southeast serving exquisite culinary delights. So go check it out. And the parking is free in downtown Nashville. Okay, Nick Saban. So we're going to play a little sound for you guys here on the show because he was on the Feinbaum show. I guess this was at a golf tournament. I'm assuming it's a charity. I should have done some more research on where this was, but it was on the Paul Feinbaum show. So all we need to credit is the Paul Feinbaum show.
Correct.
And he was talking about parity and his desires and wishes about this. So let's just roll the tape here. This was Nick Saban on parity in college football on the Paul Feinbaum show.
Roll the tape, Sean Dugan.
Well, I think one of the things that I'd like to see us be able to work back to is, everything in college football has always had parity. Same scholarship, same academic support, healthcare, whatever it is. And, I don't think we have that balance right now, which could affect, the parity of college football and college athletics as a whole. So, and I know we got a lot of good people working on it, and I'm sure they'll come up with a good solution for us.
All right. So I got a couple of quick things here and then we'll get into divisions. Number one, I do believe him when he says he wants parity in college football. I believe that he does. He's probably the biggest problem with that. And it's not just because he outworks everybody or because he's better than everybody or because he's the greatest of all time. There's no question about any of those things, Aaron. But Alabama as an institution is one of the wealthiest, most powerful and sort of driving forces of behavior inside the college football infrastructure. And when they have 4 billion assistants, graduate assistants, analysts, healthcare, nutrition, waterfalls are 200 feet taller than everybody else's, that is not parity. Alabama, by definition, has destroyed parity, and no one has benefited more than Nick Saban. And I would also argue, Aaron, that there's never been parity in our sport ever. It's never happened. He who has the gold gets the players, and he who has the players wins the championships. It has been that way for 65 years since integration, and I don't think it's ever going to change. So I'm not sure what he's opining for on the Paul Feinbaum show.
I hear all of that, and I agree with most of it. I don't agree that Nick Saban is the problem. I think you have resources. You're not going to not use them. You're not going to make sure that your players don't have the best possible resources. So I wouldn't say he's the problem. I will agree with you and say that Nick Saban would be fine with it being completely equal because he'd probably still kick everyone's ass. So he's like, you know what? Let me show you that I can do it even with not as many resources, because he probably could. But I don't know if we can go as far as to say that he is the problem, because how do you have all these academic support, like he mentioned, healthcare, nutrition, and you're like, no, don't give it to them because nobody else has it. Like nobody's going to do that.
Yeah, my argument, and you're exactly right. Like there's some nuance here. It's not that he is anti-healthcare for players, or that he is anti-nutrition for players, or getting
definitely
more,
not. Yeah,
like that's not and again, that's not what I'm saying.
No,
nor do
I didn't think that's what you were saying.
Right, and nor do I think that's what he's saying. The problem is that Alabama, if you were to rank all 130 teams, 131, I guess now, or all 14 teams just in the SEC, which one commits the most resources to imbalance the system? When it comes to all of that stuff that we're talking about, nobody does it more than Alabama. It may be Ohio State. Whoever it is, no one does it more than Alabama. There's the reason that the two greatest dynasties in the history of the sport have happened at the same school, because they are more committed to it than anyone else. And that means all the things he's talking about, that he wants to be level. But what does he want? Everyone else to elevate up to Alabama? Like Troy cannot do that. Troy does not have the same budget as Alabama. It's not possible.
Here's the thing. Nick Saban's going to follow the rules that are set. That's not on him. That's not on the schools. That's on the organization, the NCAA, that sat around and is the last one to a lot of current day issues that are coming up in collegiate athletics. And, it's like you could have been, allocating resources to other things. I mean, to me, that's just... everybody's going to do the most they can with what they've got. So it's someone regulating how much you're allowed to have. And there's only one organization that could do that is now
the SEC.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to do that because you're still competing with other conferences.
So then what is he talking about, Aaron? I don't disagree with what you're saying, but what the hell is he talking about then?
I don't really know. I think he went on a tangent, and coaches talk. This is the other point I was going to make. Coaches do so many interviews all the time. You're going to just start rambling and maybe just say something that you can't back up or that's hard to back up at some point. I mean, it's bound to happen. I don't know if that's what was happening, but I thought it was a weird tangent.
I don't think Saban does that. And again, I think Saban believes in what he's saying. The problem is that his university, and he has benefited the most from that inequity in the system. And you could, in theory, if he wanted to, be a leader for change within the system. Instead, what he does is he kind of like loosely tries to change things. And then when it doesn't change, as we've discussed on the show, he threatens us with it. You go, oh, I don't want the up-tempo offense. Well, okay, if you're not going to let me change that rule, then I'm going to use it to destroy you. Portal, name, image, like all on and on down the line, all things that Alabama is creating lack of parity. Now, let's go back.
No, but they're just doing they're just winning.
I agree, but that is the lack of parity. The lack of parity is that Alabama spends more on X and Y and Z and probably A through W than everybody else. And if you want to affect parity and be a leader for parity, you could do less. That would be against your own best interests.
You're never going to do that. You're a competitor.
So you need the SEC or somebody else.
Somebody else's job.
Let's call it a potential breakaway from the NCAA, since that's where this is all going. Let's call it a breakaway where every student athlete gets $50,000 a year to go to a school in this breakaway top 65 schools. Every athlete gets X amount of dollars in food. Every school can spend X amount of dollars on recruiting. This is what he's talking about. But that requires leadership and focus and cohesion and all these other things. Now,
keep going. Sorry. No,
I was going to say historically, and this is what I don't understand. This is why the number one thing that makes no sense in his comment is that parity has always existed in our game, or whatever. I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
But like, it's actually never existed in our game ever. Like, it's never been the same 15 to 18 teams have won the national championship, with the exception of like 1984 BYU and like 1990 Georgia Tech. With the exception of like those 2 years since integration, I could probably rattle off every national champion on less than 3 hands, maybe 4 hands. Maybe the analogy is not. I mean, it's the same teams. It's the same teams over and over and over again. And it's because they have all of the resources. So there's never been parity in our game. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he's opining for, I guess. Like, I don't know. Maybe he wants parity, so then his skills dominate, and then it's like nobody has any excuses. He's the GOAT.
I mean, that's kind of where my head was going. He's like, oh, you don't want me to beat you this way? Like, which way do you want me to beat you? But he's done that in like microcosmic ways all throughout his career with all of the things that you're talking about. You don't want to play a fast up tempo? Okay, fine. I'll beat you however you want.
Put in a salary cap, I'll still whip your ass. Like that's his, and maybe that's what he's trying to get here. And maybe that's how we should take it. But he's definitely wrong. Parity has never existed in our sport. So anyway, speaking of parity, how to legislate parity in the SEC. We're going to have a conversation about divisions. Sam Pittman, Arkansas head football coach, coming up in a little bit on the show.
My best friend.
So the Erin Dugan's new best friend. So let me quickly give you a kind of a history. So I am of the belief that the SEC is going to do away with divisions. We've seen this from the Mountain West. We've seen this from the ACC. We've seen this from the Big Ten talking about it. I am, from what I understand and from who I've spoken to, the main driving force behind the SEC getting rid of divisions is going to be more routine scheduling to get more teams traveling through the campuses in the conference more often than they are today. Because if you get rid of divisions for other conferences, the value of that is you put your 2 best teams in the championship game. You give your conference the best chance to put the best team into the playoff, especially if you're going to have automatic bids. And I think it's just easier. Frankly, I just think it's easier than remembering who's in the Atlantic and the Coastal and the legends and the leaders. You just I
think it's a money thing.
Put them all in one. But when you are selling season tickets and a TV contract, you need more good inventory.
And you get a big fat check if you go to the playoffs. So
yes. And so the driving force behind the SEC's decision to do away with divisions, should that happen, will be because of scheduling. Now, let me give you a quick rundown on the history before you lose your mind about, like, not you, but like the listeners, about tradition.
I'm happy to lose my mind.
Tradition. Everybody's, we got to keep divisions because of tradition. Tradition's great until it sucks, and then you need to change it. So divisions actually were invented by like a Division III conference in like Virginia in like the late 80s. They got a rule put in place that if you break up into divisions, you can play a championship game. Roy Kramer, the SEC's commissioner in the late 80s, early 90s, saw this tiny little conference do this. And he said, wait a second, we can make how much money on a championship game? And he put it into place in 1992. They split, they add Arkansas and South Carolina, and we get the SEC as it is today. That was just fabricated out of thin air, destroying 70 years worth of tradition, or 50, to make money off a championship game, which, if you were alive in 1992, you'll remember was a major point of consternation amongst Alabama fans because they were undefeated and they had to beat Florida in the championship game, the first ever championship game, to go on and win the national title. They eventually did, so all is well.
Do you remember that?
I've seen the 30 for 30, so yes, as a 9-year-old, I totally remember it. I believe it was Shane Matthews and George Teague, I believe, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
I was too little.
So if they were to add Oklahoma, and remember, Oklahoma, Texas is coming in. So there's only a couple of options here. So now, do you have any questions about the history of divisions, Erin? Because like it's 30 years, but like, is that long? Is that a long of a time to call it tradition? I don't know. Maybe
not in the it is because in everybody's that's alive's memory, but no, in the large scheme of things.
So if you, so? I think there are plenty of,
but not.
I think there are plenty of young people who see the tradition of like the Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Bama, Auburn, LSU thing, and they just go, man, that's how it's always been. Well, Arkansas only joined in 92. Like they're like, you can the older fans, they know it as something different.
There's another way. Yeah.
Right. And so they've seen it change. And again, pre-integration, post-integration, pre-divisions, post-divisions. This is going to be pre-Texas, Oklahoma, and then post-Texas, Oklahoma.
Right.
How do you schedule if you put Texas and Oklahoma into 2 divisions of 8 teams? Like, how do you schedule if you're going to have 2 divisions and only play your division and then 1 crossover? You would play, Alabama would play Georgia once every 14 years in Athens?
You don't want that. If you think you want that, you don't want that.
Okay, good point. I agree. The common consensus around that would be that Alabama and Auburn would move to the east. Missouri and Texas and Oklahoma would go to the west. Then you have all the other Big 12 teams, former Big 12 teams in the same group, with Arkansas, who used to also be in the Southwest Conference with Texas. Like there's a lot of history there with those teams. Texas A&M and LSU have a lot of history. There'd be a really that's I think there'd be competitive balance. You know, that would be fine.
Yeah.
But the scheduling is what the SEC wants. And that format does not allow you to schedule the way they want.
When you talk about scheduling and what the SEC wants, what are all the factors that you're taking in or you think they're taking in when they say it's a scheduling thing? So
going back to your point, what's the number one driver of all of this?
TV.
Well,
money.
More specifically, money. Yes.
But those TV, are one and the same.
They're together. Well, but season tickets and booster donations
minuscule in comparison.
True, but
booster
money.
Donations are not.
Yes, money. Yeah. Let's just put money into the big category.
Yeah, money's up.
How do we make more money? Number one, we go from 8 games to 9 games. You're automatically adding inventory for everything, ticket sales and TV, right? Mm-hmm. Nick Saban wants it. Kirby Smart wants it. So, okay, now you're going to play 7 teams in your division and then 2 crossovers. That still is exactly where we are now.
Right.
And the SEC does not like where we are right now because let me throw out some games to you. Florida and Auburn play 1 time in Gainesville every 12 years. Tennessee and LSU play 1 time in Baton Rouge every 12 years. How about Alabama, Georgia? 1 time in Athens every 12 years. Nobody at the SEC office wants that to happen. Fans don't want it. Coaches don't want it. Players don't want it. Nobody wants it. Mm-mm. Do you want it?
Nope. I don't.
A woman of many words.
I mean, I have more to say about it than that. Do you want to play? I mean, LSU, Tennessee, and Baton Rouge once every 12 years. What a missed opportunity, not only for as a fan
Bingo.
On campus going to games, but even television. I mean, it's a missed opportunity all around.
Yep.
There's an interest. I mean,
yep.
And here's the thing is that I know that in our recent memory, you know, we tend to remember like the last decade of college football as fans, as people in media or whatever. Like that's what's obviously sticking out in our head because it's most recent. But it does ebb and flow. Like Florida is, you know, not always at the very tip top of the conference. We're watching that happen now. Like it's going to ebb and flow, even if it's like, you know, if you're Vanderbilt right now, you're like Auburn, Alabama every year. Like, I don't know about that. But then if like, well, that's probably always going to be a problem for Vanderbilt. That's a horrible example. Forget that example. But just like things are going to ebb and flow. And Sam's going to allude to this too, is that you just don't know, or Coach Pittman, it is the way it is right now, but it's not always going to be that way.
Right. So I would present to you what I believe to be the most likely scenario for the future of SEC scheduling.
Why do I have a feeling you know? It's going to happen.
Allegedly. We have coined the allegedly thing. We need t-shirts that say, if anyone out there is a t-shirt company,
Chris Childers.
No. Don't give him any credit.
He did.
Allegedly. And then like Fringe Element on the bottom. I want a t-shirt that says allegedly twice.
You know, I'm going to make that. You know how I am. I'm probably going to have those made by Thursday.
Can you do it? Okay.
Yes.
Allegedly. This is what I think could possibly maybe allegedly happen.
Have happened.
Will have happened. A 3, because the ACC is going to a 3 and 5, which a quick explanation here. 3 permanent opponents, no divisions, 3 permanent opponents, 5 teams in the ACC that would rotate because they only have 14 teams. You would then play all other 13 teams in the conference twice every 4 years. So basically you're going to see everybody every other year. So you'll play the 3 will be on your schedule every single season. And then 5 would rotate. You do a home and home, and then you do the other 5 home and home. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do they decide those 3 games? I'm sure one's rivalry, and how do they decide the other ones?
We will get to the rivalries in just a second.
I said it right, you asshole.
I know you did. So in the SEC, because it's going to be at 16 teams, it's a 3 and 6 model. You go to 9 games. You have 3 permanent opponents that you play every single year. Then you play 6 teams in a home and home, 1 year home, 1 year road.
Yeah, I get it.
Then you play the other 6, 1 year home, 1 year road. So over a 4-year span, you will have played every other team in your conference twice. I cannot come up with a more equitable system than the 3 and 6 model. Honestly, I cannot. I've tried. Maybe I'm clearly not smart enough, but that's the best one I can come up with.
It's the best answer.
Okay.
And I know we hate when we agree, but
this is a whole podcast of agreement, basically. So the question then becomes, and I posted this on Twitter and got a bunch of Kentucky fans all riled up about this in a good way. They were happy, like riled up in a good way. You know what I mean? And so
just stop.
The question is going to be, who should every team's 3 permanent rivals be? Now, I cannot go through the list of all 16 teams and all 3, that's 64 teams, or whatever it is. 30,
it's not
48,
really
40. It's 48 different teams. We're not going to list all of them.
You can't read fast enough.
Well, I think it's hard for the audience to listen. If Puff Daddy young Sean Dugan Combs wants to put a graphic up on the screen,
now we're just abusing my brother.
by all
Sean,
means.
you don't have to do that.
But here's here's what we can start though. Or go check out my Twitter account. I've listed them all there.
Just Google, or you can follow Braden if you really feel like it.
At Braden Gall, go to Jasper's, free parking, and rate, review, subscribe on the YouTube page.
Wait, can I say something before we move on?
Please.
And this is a big time throwback moment to a much earlier episode, but somehow I ended off on a tangent one episode about how the Hustler Hollywood, which is an adult store across the street that I can see from my window, had free parking, but I was just kidding. It was part of the ad. But I did drive by it, getting off the interstate yesterday, and they do have a huge sign up that says they have free parking.
So we do not have to issue a correction.
No, it was right, but it was accidentally right. But
you have to go into the Hollywood Hustler, no free shouts, to use their parking, correct?
I don't know. They didn't specify that on the signage.
That is one of my that's a fascinating street in Nashville, and if you ever come to Nashville, go check out that street. It's a great street.
Anyways, keep going. I digress. Obviously.
So let's instead of trying to rattle off Arkansas should play A&M and Texas and Mississippi State. Auburn should play Bama and Georgia and Ole Miss. You can see how that might get confusing to a listener
and annoying.
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to lay out the top priority, because let me take another step back. I'm getting ahead of myself, Erin. I apologize.
Easy, Tiger.
Here is the goal, in my opinion. This is not from inside the SEC walls or anybody. I don't have any sources on this. This is just my opinion about how the SEC, and frankly, every conference in college football should approach this. Balance. Your job as a conference is to maintain some rivalries that are important, that are traditional, that matter to people, that matter to schools and fans into your conference. And oh, by the way, those rivalries probably make you a lot of money. So you want to balance that with playing as many teams as possible, as often as possible, and also creating new, fun, cool stuff.
Yeah.
So the key for me, and that's how I would explain it as easily as I can, is just the goal is balance in scheduling.
Okay. I think Yeah. Okay. I'm with you. I thought you weren't done.
I like this episode. All you're doing is just saying, yeah, Braden.
No, I feel like you're like dependent clauses. Like, I feel like you have something else after.
Oh, well, I don't know what that is. What do they?
A dependent clause?
Yeah. Does she come on Christmas Eve or what's the deal? I don't
You're not
understand.
that dumb. Are you?
Okay. I end all my sentences with prepositions, so I don't know what that means. But.
Okay. Well, I'll just talk because I don't know what you're doing. I do think that it makes I like this setup. It makes the most sense to me. You create the most new traditions. You have the most opportunities to travel places. If you're a fan and you're like, I don't know, I just want to keep it the way it was. Think about getting to go to all these schools that you've never been to, that your team's never played, experience the culture, the food, like really think about what game day would be like for you. And maybe it would make you more excited. It does for me. I will say that some of the traditions that have become traditions right now don't seem totally equitable to me for some teams. Like, you're playing much harder opponents every year than like, for example, Kentucky. Kentucky's 3 are Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt.
Well, that's just what I threw out. That's just my ideas.
Oh, those are your ideas.
Yeah, that's not what's going to happen.
I thought
necessarily.
that was like proposed.
No. These are my proposals.
Oh,
those are just my proposals.
Throw this list out. I thought this was way more official.
No, there's nothing. They haven't even approved getting rid of divisions. They haven't even approved
there was like
9-game schedule.
Ideas about what it would be.
No, this is all allegedly, Aaron.
Well, you know how some people play around with it, like insiders will like.
But that's kind of what I'm doing here. Is I have a pretty good feeling that this is the direction we're going. And so what I did was I tried an exercise, which actually is quite fun.
Honestly, you're probably right though. Like, looking at these, this is what would happen. I think you're right.
I think there'd be plenty of them that are not right, but a vast majority I think would be right should they decide to go to a no division 9-game 3-6 scheduling model. allegedly go to 3-6. Yeah. No, I mean, but again, the key is that even if it looks imbalanced, and you bring up Kentucky because I suggested Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt for Kentucky, because this is not meant to be disrespectful to Missouri, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vanderbilt. But
it will be.
They don't play in the same stratosphere as Alabama and Georgia. No. And so I'm okay with a little imbalance because elsewhere in the schedule, the other 6 games are going to balance that out over time.
That's true, because you don't have them. Yeah, exactly. You're right.
Like Kentucky's still going to play Georgia twice every 4 years, Alabama twice every 4 years, LSU twice every 4 years, Florida twice every 4. So really the question is, what rivalries should we protect? Should we move to this model? Now, the one thing I think is a negative to get rid of divisions is it might make some of the tiebreakers a little sticky. I could see that happening. Like, if you've got Bama at 9-0 and then Georgia and LSU and Kentucky at 8-1, but they've only played each other like one time, that could create some stickiness with the tiebreakers. And so that is something you need to consider with this type of model. I don't know how you fix that.
I don't know if there's an answer to that.
There could be weighted scheduling, which I think is probably actually a better idea, but it will not. I'm just telling you right now, it will not.
So
happen.
when do you weight it? Like, I know it's all hypothetical.
You would base it off of last year's standings.
Here's the thing though, but think about season-ending injuries, and you're given this weight. Yeah, that's why you're saying it doesn't work because
it won't work because it's too complicated and people won't understand it, and it's not as fair. So, like, if Vanderbilt finished 14th, they could play teams 13 through 6 or whatever, 13 through 5. And if you finished in first place, you could play teams 2 through 10. Like, every year you could just sort of slot in where you finished. Mm-hmm. And again, teams change from year to year, but there's no other way to do it unless
there's always subjectivity to all of this.
Yes. And a team gets, one Kentucky team is a 10-win team and then they come back down. Ole Miss last year was a 10-win team. Now they're going to be the 7 or 8-win team. Like, it's not the same year over year. So again, I think would be my personal favorite. I am under the impression that is not even on the table. So but I think it would be interesting to discuss. I just think, again, giving the lower teams at the bottom of the conference more opportunity to elevate themselves and then making the schedules tougher for the teams at the top should actually be a goal. But
you got Sam Pittman on the podcast. Why don't you get Greg Sankey?
Got it. I'm on it. I will allegedly try that. All right, let me quickly here are your rivalries that I have sort of that are non-negotiable for me.
Okay.
Tell me, I've got about 10 or 11 or 12 of them here. Tell me which ones are non-negotiable for you. Alabama, Auburn.
Has to. Yep.
Non-negotiable, has to be protected.
Non-negotiable.
I think Texas, Oklahoma.
Agreed.
Non-negotiable. I'm going to add Texas and Texas A&M. That should be non-negotiable for me.
They don't maybe feel that way, but I'd love to see it. I'm going to go. I don't feel as passionate about that.
Okay. Egg Bowl, Mississippi State.
Got to.
Non-negotiable. Georgia, Florida, cocktail party. Non-negotiable. Texas A&M, LSU.
Recently more passion behind it than ever. But if I'm going like has to happen for college football as a whole, I'm not saying yes to that. I would love for it to happen.
LSU fans hate A&M more, remember? We learned that on the show this year than Alabama. What about LSU Bama? I don't think it has to be protected. If they're going to play twice every 4 years?
No, I mean, no.
Georgia Auburn, the Deep South's oldest rivalry. They've played every year in the SEC history. Does it need to be protected?
Yeah, if you don't want people to go into cardiac arrest, we should keep it.
Okay. So I posted my idea on my schedule, and Booger McFarland immediately responded to me because he always likes to, like, whenever he disagrees with me, he just immediately, and this is
people
also a bit
love to disagree with you, honestly.
Yeah, it's true. It's a bit of a humble brag too, because it means Boog is following me and responding to my tweets. It
wasn't that humble. I saw it.
Fair enough. I posted this, and I have LSU and Florida, which is the crossover for both teams. I have that one protected, and as a part of this idea, he immediately said, "Why are people obsessed with the LSU Florida thing? No one at LSU wants to keep this rivalry." And I was like, "Really? Okay."
Have you ever?
So LSU
to that,
Florida.
I would say, obviously Booker's been to that game, but I would say if you have not been to that game, that's why I'm saying that.
Sorry.
You're just being an ass for no reason today.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Damn. He's been several times to that game. So have I. If you have not been to that game, I would say you need to go before you say it needs to go away.
Fair enough.
It's pretty good.
Tennessee, Alabama. This one hasn't really meant a whole lot to college football in like 25 years. Y'all
feel passionate about it. I look on it as an outsider to both of those teams, neither of them being my alma mater. I'm like, Tennessee, why are you doing this to yourself? I don't get it.
When you say y'all, who are you referring to?
You and your volunteers.
No, you're referring to old people. Because here's the breakdown. Seriously,
here's the break. Is there a difference?
Here's the breakdown. Okay, now who's being fucking mean? Okay. All right.
You were mean first.
Getting chippy. This is getting chippy today. Even though we agreed the entire show, this is getting chippy.
Well, we had to go somewhere.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's the dopamine gremlins in your brain that have to balance out the pain and pleasure. It's just how it works.
Right.
So Google it. So if you are over a certain age, you think Tennessee, Alabama is non-negotiable and untouchable. It is the third Saturday in October. It is too valuable to get rid of. If you are under a certain age, and I would probably put this number around, if you were born after 1990, so you were 10 years old around the BCS era invention or so, you probably don't care. You probably don't care. I'm in the middle.
Of the, yeah.
Yeah, I'm 39, so I was born 82. I didn't grow up on the third Saturday in October. I grew up on Tennessee, Florida. Like, that's what I grew up on. And I don't know about Tennessee, Bama being. I think it would be protected, but I don't think fans care as much about it as the old folk do.
I know that I thought we were in the same generation, but you just really put
I'm a geriatric millennial, so.
Okay. So my friends from high school, I was born in 89, so it's I'm on the late end of this.
We're the same generation, dude.
I know, I was making a joke. God. But really, you are saying that, like, that's, this is all kind of in that same realm, which is my friends. There's a lot of kids that go to high school together where some go to Bama and some go to Tennessee because it's all kind of in the same geographical area. They care about seeing each other and hanging out and tailgating for that game. Besides that, I have seen no real passion around this rivalry besides it's a weekend for friends to get together that went to high school together. Seriously, that's all I've seen.
I would protect Tennessee, Florida far faster and far sooner than I would protect Tennessee, Alabama.
Me too, hands down, no question.
And maybe that's crazy. Maybe we're wrong on that, but like that's just how I see it. Like I just grew up with Tennessee, Florida. Like that means more. I don't know. Like that, it just means more, Erin.
It means more to Florida too, which makes it mean more in general. Like Tennessee, Alabama means very little to Alabama, I would say. If
you are under 40, yes.
Yeah.
If you're over 40, I think you probably think differently about that, but I tend to agree with you. I could just see. I guess here's the last question, and we'll. The question I have is: are you okay with the 3 permanent opponents being a little imbalanced from team to team?
Yeah, because you're switching out on every other game.
Like if Kentucky and Vanderbilt and Mississippi State and Ole Miss and South Carolina, Missouri have slightly easier permanent opponents, do we have a problem with that?
No, just because you are seeing those other however many 6 teams. I mean, if your set opponents are easier, then you've already taken up the easier bottom tier teams in the SEC. Your other 6 games are going to be harder.
Right.
It's going to end up evening itself out. So
totally
I'm with
agree.
you.
Allegedly, that was a great plan.
Wow. What a time to be alive, honestly.
All right. Anything else on the scheduling? That just about does it for us here on the scheduling. Are we good on this? No divisions.
We covered it.
No divisions. Put your best 2 teams in the championship game. 3 and 6 scheduling. Maintain some rivals. If you got some thoughts on it, comments in the YouTube section. Check out the Twitter accounts. All that great stuff. You can do all that and comment and give us your best. Who is your favorite team and what 3 opponents you would want to see protected? I'm cool with everybody having like some fresh ideas on this because I don't think any of this is set. I think we have a general idea of where we're going, but I think there's still a lot of things to be decided. I just think divisions are antiquated and it's not the best way to determine a champion. And it's not the best way to see all the teams in your league. And we're about to go to 16 teams. So something's got to give here, Erin.
And then Braden will stop talking about divisions. It'll be a great day.
Oh, that'll be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when we come back, our conversation with Arkansas head football coach, Sam Pittman.
Yes, sir.
Fringe Element, Erin Dugan, is a podcast about the SEC. And it is, in fact, brought to you by
Sam Pittman.
Oh, definitely.
It's brought to you by Sam Pittman, the best person on the planet with the best taste in everything, including food, people, ideas. I mean,
science.
You name it, he knows it.
Politics.
And if Sam Pittman started a cult, I would consider joining. I've been watching Leah Remini.
It's called Arkansas football.
It's called Pig Suey. No, I know. I've been watching the Leah Remini Scientology documentary. Fascinating, by the way, if you have not seen it.
Yes.
Dark, but fascinating. And I'm not into cults. I'm not a big cult girl, but Sam Pittman started one. I would at least think about it.
Hey, you're in Tennessee. I'm in Tennessee. We've got a higher per capita rate of cults than we would like to have.
Do
in
we?
The state of Tennessee. Yeah. Have you not seen the Remnant Fellowship on HBO? Oh my God. That's about Tennessee. Woo.
Wait, is it about the lady that says that the skinnier you are, the more Jesus loves you?
Yes, the way down, Gwen Shamblin. That's like, I literally was like a half a mile from my house. I used to drive by that church like every day. Crazy.
Not good dieting technique.
What would Sam Pittman order if he went to Jasper's? Go to Jasper's, free parking, great menu.
Ooh,
what does he order?
Question.
Probably has to be barbecue, right?
I think so.
He's not getting a veggie flatbread.
No, of course he's not getting a veggie flatbread.
Which is my order because it's delicious. You
normally order the lobster roll.
I do the shrimp and goodies. I like the veggie flatbread.
Oh, shrimp and goodies. That's what I meant.
I do like the Creole roll. The burger is spectacular. The barbecue pork. It's got to be the sweet potato barbecue.
He's definitely getting those. Yeah, I don't, but not as his meal. He'd get those to share at the table because he's
steak and eggs. Is he a steak and eggs guy?
He could be.
I could see him doing that.
He could
be an offensive line coach.
I was pulling up the menu to make sure we don't get this wrong.
Yeah, maybe some.
Maybe he could be a smash burger guy too, though.
That's good.
I think smash burger, but then get the barbecue, the sweet potato fries for the app.
So, all right, Sam Pittman's order at Jasper's. Go to Jasper's, free parking. Smash burger, double patties, side item, sweet potato fries, add barbecue.
Mm-hmm. That's what he always gets. He gets that every time he goes.
So a meat as his main course, and then another
On
meat
fries.
as his side item.
Yeah.
And then a meat shake to drink.
No, he doesn't like meat shakes.
Yeah.
He never gets those when he goes to Jasper's.
Don't even know what that is.
My gosh, stop. What if Sam Pittman came and ate with us at Jasper's? Do you know how fun it would be?
A lot of fun.
I'm literally staring off into the distance thinking about it.
For you. Oh, man. And if you're not in Nashville and you'd like to visit a Four Top Hospitality restaurant, which of course is the wonderful people that put on Jasper's, make sure you check out one of their fine other establishments and locations across the Southeast, in Mississippi, Alabama, Memphis, all across the Southeast. You go check it out. Four Top Hospitality, Jasper's if you're in Nashville. All right. Sam Pittman eats there. Sam Pittman loves it.
It's his favorite.
We are now putting words into an
Sam
SEC
Pittman's
football
mouth.
coach's mouth.
Sorry, Sam.
We love you, Sam. All right. Go to Jasper's, everybody. Sam, welcome to the show. We really appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I've been out doing promotions, caravans and things of that nature, touchdown clubs. And it's my first spring of being a head coach where the coaches are out on the road. I'm not. I've been here 3 springs, but 2 of them been because of COVID. The staff was all in. So certainly different. At times I'm going, what am I doing? Things of that nature. It's just another new part of being a head coach.
So let's just kind of take your entire tenure there, a couple of years. You just alluded to all the stuff you've had to deal with, both in season, off season. What is it that you think? And I've talked to Mac Brown about this, who took 10 years off of coaching, came right back, and sort of like got right back into it, right? What is it about your strategy, your delivery, your communication style? What is it about the way you operate through the pandemic or otherwise, whatever? What is it about your style that has worked? Why is it working right now?
Well, I'm a problem solver. Nothing gets to me too much. I do believe that if there's a problem, and once you get it fixed, it goes away. And if you let it linger, it becomes a bigger problem. And problem's only a problem until you solve it. And so I think those are things that we do. If I don't like something, I just visit with whomever or whatever the situation's about, get it handled. That includes any and every player, any and every employee, and we get it fixed. You don't know what you don't know, and if something's bothering somebody and you don't even know it, you can fix a problem fast. I think the kids appreciated that. What we say we're going to do, we put it on a piece of paper. We're going to do it. We don't put a lot of things down in writing, but if we do, we're going to do it no matter what. That's the situation. We're going to do it. So the kids have appreciated that, and I think our staff does as well.
Sam, you kind of led me right into this, which is just the importance of transparency. And that's kind of who you are at your core. I know that, you probably don't have to try at that. That just is who you are. In terms of transparency, what does that benefit you? How does that benefit you as a coach? And on the other side of that, what about being so transparent makes your job harder? Are there any things that it makes more difficult?
I think transparency, a great question. I think it can also be said being humble. I think being humble, being transparent are probably go hand in hand. And I think people appreciate if I make a mistake. I can remember a Friday walkthrough that I got mad. I was mad at the team because we had a few, situational substitution errors, and the team said, "Coach, you're so far away from us that we couldn't hear." And I apologized to the team. I said, "Hey, that's my fault. If you can't hear, you can't hear." And so I moved over to them. Something as small as that, the kids appreciated, because at that evening I said, "Hey, look, today, I understand you couldn't hear me, and something like that." So I think being transparent is good. I don't want that to be taken as soft. I think sometimes people can be so good at communication that, and they listen, I believe if people talk, you ought to listen. You can learn that way. But at the same time, there is a fine line in there where listening to people empowers them, which is great. But at some point, I don't want that to be perceived as I'm soft. And, I don't think you have to yell and scream at people to get your point across. But sometimes that's perceived as soft a little bit.
Yeah, it's not the Junction Boys anymore, Sam. There's no question about that. Let's talk about your quarterback. KJ Jefferson is a extraordinary talent, and all the stuff we know about on the field, right? We see the size and the physicality and the arm and all the things he does for your football team and your offense. But all the stuff you're talking about right now, transparency and thoughtfulness and listening and leadership, that's all stuff that has to translate to the quarterback position as well. What is it that makes him good at that? And what is it that he needs to do to sort of elevate his game to that next level that allows you guys to compete for championships?
Well, there's some things he's really good at, taking care of the football, running the football, decision-making. I mean, he's really good at those type things. Can he get better at each one of those things we just said? Absolutely. I think if you ask him, I think he feels like he probably needs to lose 10 pounds, maybe become a little faster, a little more elusive in that. That's not his elusiveness is not his style per se. He wants to run over you, those things kind of working that in his game. His leadership skills, his comfortability around the team and around me has really grown. The team treats him like he should be. He's a starting quarterback for us. It's proven his worth, his value, who he is as a person. So I think those things are his strengths. His weaknesses, of course, doesn't have a whole lot of them. He throws a great deep ball. I think his accuracy is going to continue to improve, and it will, because he's a humble guy that knows that hard work is the only way you really can improve.
As you guys try to build this program, Sam, and take it to where you want it to be, I know there's a lot of pieces that go into what makes up your culture. So it would take way more time than we have for you to describe how you built it. But do you have some absolutelys and absolutely nots that have to happen within your program, like things that are absolutely mandatory, and then things, no matter what, you hear it, you see it, it's nixed?
Yeah, I think we're kind of built on three simple things that I believe that if someone complimented you, that it would be some of the strongest compliments, man or woman, you could ever get. One of them would be loyalty. I think that's a big thing. Anything that's dividing the team is not loyal. I mean, you have to be loyal to each other through thick and thin. So I think if someone said, she's really a loyal person, that's one of the best compliments I think you could ever get. And the other one is hard work. If they say you're a hard worker, and then the other one is that you're tough, and that can be a man or a woman. And my mother, she was a tough lady, and that's one of the best compliments I could have ever given her. Loyal, tough, hard work. That's what we're built on, and we always have a chip on our shoulder. We always want to use the underdog role as who we are. We thrive on that. I thrive on it, from where I came from of 59 years before, I got my opportunity, or 58. And KJ Jefferson got up in front of the team. He was ranked 14th out of 14 in quarterbacks preseason last year. And that bothered him. But to be honest with you, that's who we are. At one point, I was ranked the 100th at the last Power 5 coach in the country, and the worst in the SEC. Now, I may be that, but I have a chip on my shoulder that I'm not. So I think those are our values, our core of what we try to get done. And I love when anybody says we're the hardest playing team they've seen, that's the best compliment we can get, because that's the way we win. And so that's kind of what we're built on. Well,
there was plenty of people that had questions when you were hired. You can yell at me if you want to, Coach. I'm fine being accounted for. You can yell at me. You guys have done amazing work. Now, I'm assuming that you planned it after 58 years to start coaching, being a head coach with name, image, and likeness, the portal, you name it, playoff expansion. Like, that was obviously part of your plan. But with all of that happening, like, are you having fun? Do you have moments where you're enjoying this entire process?
being a head coach has been the funnest time of my life. Now, part of it might be because of my experiences I had before and all that. The hardest time for me as an assistant coach was trying to please the head coach. And it was stressful to me. I wanted him to think I was the best coach, the best recruiter, the most loyal person to him. And that, hey, if I needed something, I kept everything off his office desk. I took care of my room. Well, there's a lot of stress in that. And as a head coach, it's different. It's kind of roles reversed a little bit, and you're more concerned, honestly, about the team and the state. And if you do that, to me, it's took pressure off of me because I feel like we can run a program that would make the players on the team proud to be on the team, and the state of Arkansas proud of the team when they go out there and play.
I have a very lighthearted question for you. Switching gears.
Give it to me. All right.
So offensive linemen in general, and some of my best friends from college, I went to Vanderbilt, were on the O-line. So I don't even feel bad saying this, but there is something particularly weird and quirky and funny about O-linemen, and you find it pretty much everywhere. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it those guys that end up on the O-line, or does the O-line make them weird and quirky?
They're all mama's boys, number one. I mean, every single one.
It's true.
They can act like they're tougher and tough, but when mom comes around, they just melt, which is, by the way, awesome. But they're all that first and foremost. But they're just different. They're just different. They're the ones that their parents or don't hit that little kid so hard. Different. You know what I mean. They have been reversed their whole life because they've been bigger than the other kids on the field. They've been pampered somewhat but at the same time, no headlines, no anything. Just, go out there and do your job. Don't say nothing. And you might be the best player on the team, but nobody knows it, type deal, which I've been really fortunate to have several of those guys. But I think that's a little bit of it. I think we would all probably be a little bit better if we were O-linemen, to be honest with you, because you're certainly humbled as an offensive line.
And I know I'll just speak for those of us down here in the South, which is all three of us. Mama's responsible normally for the cornbread. And so those offensive linemen need the cornbread. There's no question about that. Would Arkansas benefit from the SEC removing divisions? Do you have an opinion?
Depends on, how it works, if it depends on who you're seated with, if they take a higher class, take a average of years, and you split the league and you play half of the good ones and half of the ones that weren't so good and things of that nature, probably. Could Arkansas benefit if we were on the other side of the SEC? Possibly. But then again, in 4 or 5 years, you might not want to be over there on the east side. So it is what it is. I've said the whole time that Arkansas is in SEC West, right where they belong. And I believe that. I believe that we should be a much better team than what we were, and I believe we should be better than what we were last year. As we move forward. Now, that's hard to do. It's hard to do with that. And, of course, we're getting ready for our third toughest schedule in college football. That's 3 national championships at the toughest schedule in football. Now, they've been trying to fire me for 3 years. They can't do it yet. Maybe they'll get me eventually, but I hope not.
Sam, we'll let you go on this. Treylon Burks is here in Nashville. Yeah. Can you give us a little insight? We know the physical skills. We know how good he is after the catch, and we know he likes to hunt boars with his bare hands. But give us something that the people don't know about Treylon Burks, the person.
Cares more about the team than himself. I mean, that's the probably the biggest quality that he has. He cares about his teammates. He cares about winning more than he does how many passes he catches. And now, if winning says I have to catch 12 passes, well, then he's going to do that as well. But he cares way more about the team than he does himself personally.
Sam, thank you so much, man. Erin is a huge fan of yours. I'm a huge fan of yours. We appreciate your time. Erin, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would.
Come on, Erin.
I don't fangirl over anyone, Sam. It's just because of what you've been able to do there and how you do it and just being a human. I love that about you, because a lot of times when you get in a position like you're in, people aren't able to maintain that human factor. So I definitely respect you from that. And my top 3 accomplishments probably to date are graduating from Vanderbilt, and I started my own business. And then the day you followed me on Twitter, I don't even know if you know you follow me on Twitter, but
sure I
freaked out. Braden and I joke about it all the time. So
oh my,
I'm a fan.
Thank you for all the kind words, and I'm a fan of y'all's too, and appreciate you having me on.
Well, your team is fun to watch. Your team is fun to watch. They play hard. They're tough as nails. So we really appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right, go home.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank y'all. Bye now.
Awesome.
Take it easy, Coach. That was Arkansas head football coach Sam Pittman on the show. Erin, was that good for you?
Yeah, he's perfect. Literally.
He's actually quite an entertaining interview.
He's just a good person. Everyone should be more like Sam Pittman.
He acts, how about this? Unlike most football coaches in college football, he acts like a person.
Yeah.
Just a human. Just act
like a human. Can you imagine, we're so far down this weird channel that we're like, his MO is acting like a human. That should be the standard, but it's not. So
yeah. Again, though, I think it's a thing that we're seeing in college football. People are hiring ball coaches that just do what they say. They believe in what they say. They're there for the kids, and they want to try to build a team. Go figure. Much less confusing, honestly. Go figure. I hope that was awesome for everybody out there, you Arkansas fans. We appreciate you tuning in and hanging out with us. Anything you'd like to say? Would you like to say anything? An acceptance speech, perhaps? I don't think I did anything to deserve an award except for keep it together, honestly. Yeah. Sam Pittman killed it. No, he's great. I love him. He's exactly what I thought he would be. Exactly what you see is what you get. It's just a breath of fresh air, and he's genuine and transparent and a good person. Yep. So yep. I can't have nothing to complain about. You listen, as I told him, I was critical of the hire. I have no problem putting my hand up and being accounted for in front of the coach, which is part of the job here. And you have convinced me. He and his work and that team and you have convinced me to be all in on Arkansas and Sam Pittman. I'm in, man. I'm in. Then it's a good day. I'm a Pittman stan. That's where we're at. All right. Make sure you check out the YouTube page. Go to Jasper's, rate, review, subscribe, follow us all over the socials, turn on the notifications, give Erin a follow, and maybe, just maybe, she'll say thanks. Just maybe. Say thanks? To you? Yeah, yes. Oh. For fuck's sake. You're welcome. I told you thank you before we got on the show, by the way. I told you thank you on the phone or via text. If it doesn't happen on the air, it's not real life. I said thank you times a million, quote unquote. So F off. Thank you, Braden, Pittman, for getting my hero on Fringe Element. I am not forever indebted to you because that's too scary to say, but I appreciate you. Why would I want you to be in debt to me? That's I don't know. You get Thank you to Sam Pittman, Erin Dugan, excellent stuff. Thank you guys all for listening. Turn all the notifications on. My name is Braden Gall. This has been Fringe Element on the 440 Sports Network. Best day ever.